Anyway, before we get sued by Malcolm in the Middle. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Mainly Murder. Oh, drop my iPad. With Meg and Mum. I'm Meg.
That would make me Mum.
Mum. We are back with part 2 of the Yorkshire Ripper, Mr.
The
Peter
Yorkshire, not
Sutcliffe.
not
Not Jack the Ripper.
I did. I thought, when you did it last week, I thought it was
Jack the Ripper.
Originally, I thought when you were doing Ripper, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, he is the most famous Ripper besides the Ripper roll. Oh, me microphone. Me. Oh, hello. Yes, when we left part 1, he in the middle of his killing spree. Yes, well, not a spree. It was thinged out. If you haven't listened to part 1, probably suggest you go listen to part 1. I don't know why you'd start on a part 2, but you know, you do you boo. Fucking floats your boat.
You do you, boo.
You do you boo. Okay. Oh, that's Peter.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't. He's in the middle, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, normally most of them have got like something creepy, really creepy about him, and you can go.
But he just looks average.
Yeah, like a pathetic little man.
Yes, he's a pathetic little man.
A size 7 feet. I remembered that.
Yep, good on you.
Oh.
There's a rainbow on the roof.
Oh, there is too.
Where the fuck's that coming from?
Okay, come on. Focus.
Squirrel. This is why we have an ADHD Avenue street sign in the pod lab.
You do. In the pod lab?
Pod lab. That's what we're in, a pod lab.
Isn't it a pod?
Pod room.
Pod room.
Podcast room. That's what we refer to it. It used to be the book room when I had my hyperfixation of selling books on eBay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. One of your many. I'm going to write a fucking book of all the things you'll get rich quick bullshit.
Where is that rainbow coming from?
The fucking window behind you, you numbnut.
No, it's not.
It is. It's lining right across the top.
But it lines across with the door as well.
It's coming straight into the window. Just fucking read your
my God.
notes.
Anyway,
idiot.
So back to Peter Sutcliffe.
Oh, my God.
On the 31st of January 1978, 21-year-old Yvonne Pearson left her 2 children in the care of a 16-year-old neighbour and went to the Flying Dutchman pub.
Funny. Well, not funny, but looking at it, I think she's the first blonde.
No.
Oh, was it? I thought all the rest were all, well, from those photos, they all look like they were all brunette. I thought he might have had a type.
Well, there's been a lot of brunettes. I can't remember her first name now, but there was another blonde.
Ah.
And there was a black girl as well.
Oh, well.
So he doesn't have a
type.
like a Ted Bundy,
okay,
like
most
brunettes.
of them were brunettes. But anyway, go on.
She left there around 9:30 to go earn some money, as she told a friend before she departed. Meanwhile, that night, Peter was driving from Bingley to Bradford. As he was driving, he narrowly avoided getting into an accident when a car backed out of a side street in front of him, the driver obviously not looking where he was going. He braked and soon was surprised to see a blonde-haired woman dressed in a black sweater and black pants tap on the front passenger window and then open the door. He asked where she had sprung from, and she said, "Just good timing. You can put it down to fate."
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's a fate you didn't want, sweetheart.
They agreed on the price of £5 and soon were on their way to a piece of waste ground at the back of Drummond's mill where his father worked.
Oh.
After Yvonne had gotten out of the car, Peter hit her over the head several times with a heavy walling hammer. Almost immediately, another car appeared and pulled in alongside his.
Oh, shit.
Peter pulled her body beside an old sofa and, to stop her from moaning and making noise, he grabbed handfuls of horsehair and began stuffing it into her mouth and down her throat, at the same time holding her nose.
Oh, my God.
Eventually, the car parked alongside his drove away.
So, wait on. He's in the back of nowhere, isn't he?
The back of a mill.
Yeah. So why did this other car just rock up?
Possibly another
perv.
Not like possibly another sex worker and a client looking for somewhere quiet. They might have gone, oh, there's already a car here. We better...
Oh, we'll just go park beside him for a minute and
yeah,
get him a little bit unnerved and then drive off.
Left alone with his victim, he dragged her trousers down, bared her breast, and proceeded to start kicking her in the head and on the body. At one point, he jumped on her chest
God.
with both of his feet.
Oh, my God.
Finally, he hid Yvonne by throwing soil, rubble, and turf on her body and then covering the makeshift grave with an old sofa.
Oh, jeez.
On Easter Sunday, March 26, 1976, over 2 months later, A passerby saw an arm sticking out from under the old sofa.
Oh, seriously? He went to all that trouble and he left an arm hanging out.
Well, she wasn't found for 2 months.
No, but I mean, he's covered it with dirt, covered it right, put a sofa on top and gone out of here.
Well,
and did notice a hand sticking up
2
going,
old sofa, and a putrid smell assaulted his nose.
Okay, that I can understand.
When he approached, what he first saw was a tailor's dummy.
Oh, shit.
No, it's never. 18-year-old Helen Reitker and her twin sister Rita were fairly new to the sex worker trade. They'd only worked for a few weeks and had evolved a way of working designed to frustrate any efforts of men that might want to harm them. Helen and Rita agreed they would always take the car number of every client and meet back at an appointed time after 20 minutes, a system which worked well for them so far.
Mm-hmm.
On January 31st, Helen and Rita left their flat at around 8:30 p.m. to patrol their beat in the concentrated red light area in Great Northern Street. At approximately 9:10, Rita saw her sister get into a dark-coloured car on the other side of the street. Rita was shortly picked up by a man in a Datsun.
Hang on. If they were both, how did they take each other's rego number of where the other was going if one had already gone?
Maybe
the second one had no backup whatsoever.
Well, yeah.
Bit of a clink in their theory there. Didn't quite work.
Helen came back to the rendezvous point 5 minutes earlier than Rita at 9:25 p.m. The opportunity to make an extra £5 before her sister returned was too good to miss, so Helen got into the car with Peter Sutcliffe.
Oh, no.
As he drove into the timber yard, Peter planned to use the method of attack, which involved suggesting they do it in the back and then attacking when their back was turned as they began to get into the back seat of the car. However, as soon as they turned off the engine, she undid her trousers and indicated she was ready to begin.
Oh.
Unexpectedly, and despite himself, Peter became aroused and, using the excuse he had to urinate, got out of the car. When he came back, she agreed to get out so they could have sex in the back of the car. With her back to him, trying to get into the rear of the car, Peter struck her with a hammer. He missed and hit the car door instead, alerting Helen to the danger she was in.
Jesus.
But before she had a chance to scream, he hit her again.
Oh, I had a bit of hope there. I was like, oh, she got away.
She immediately crumpled to the ground. It was then that Peter realised they were in full view of 2 taxi drivers who stood nearby.
Oh, shit.
Taking Helen by the hair, he dragged her to the back of the woodyard. Still alive, Helen attempted to protect herself from the hammer as Peter crushed it onto her head again.
Oh.
Scared that the taxi drivers would discover them, Peter lay on top of Helen and covered her mouth with his hand, then had sex with her as she lay bleeding.
Oh.
Finally, the taxi drivers left, and Peter got up to find his hammer, which he had dropped. While he searched, Helen attempted to escape.
How did she have anything left in her? Being hit with the head twice with a hammer?
Probably just like adrenaline.
Oh, probably, yeah.
As she ran from him, Peter hit her several more times on the back of the head.
Fuck.
Still alive.
Oh, my God.
This is a roller coaster, isn't it?
She's a bionic woman.
Still alive, Helen was dragged to the front of the car where Peter stabbed her through the heart and lungs with a kitchen knife he had hidden in his car. Before leaving, he hid her body behind a stack of timber. When Rita returned after the allocated 20 minutes, she found no sign of Helen. She stayed for a while waiting for her sister, but when it became obvious she wasn't coming back, she headed back to their flat. Fear of the police prevented her from reporting Helen's disappearance until Thursday.
Oh, for God's sake.
Well, yeah, but they were a sex worker. Like, back then it would have been like...
Yeah, but she could have said, we're at the pub and...
Well, yeah.
She's not at home and I got home later. Like, you could have lied and to... Oh, my God.
On Friday the 3rd...
Not that it would have made much difference, I wouldn't have thought.
No, she's still, in the same position.
Yeah.
On Friday 3rd of February, a police Alsatian dog located Helen's body where Peter had left her on the previous Tuesday. 40-year-old Vera Millward was a Spanish-born mother of 7 who had been living in a run-down council flat in Hulme, Manchester. On May 16th, Vera, a frail, sickly woman who had 1 lung, had 3 major operations in 1976 and 1977 and had chronic stomach pains, left her home at around 10 p.m, telling her boyfriend that she was going out to buy some cigarettes and pick up some painkillers from the nearby hospital. I'm sorry, but you got one lung, lady. Why are you smoking?
Oh, well, she probably figures she's on her way out.
Well,
Let's
yeah.
make the most of it. Why stop doing what you like?
Knowing what she really meant, he did not expect her to see her for a few hours. She was a sex worker as well.
Oh, my God. Why would you be bothered?
Yeah, it's just 7 kids, but like...
7 kids. She's crook as a dog. She's got one lung.
Or maybe because of that, no one would employ her.
Oh, bloody hell.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she had a regular client who would usually park outside her flat in Greenham Avenue and flash his headlights. This night, he didn't show up and Vera hung around for business. A man driving through the area was the first client to come along. Peter picked her up and the pair drove for about 2.5 miles to the Manchester Royal Infirmary and a quiet spot in a parking compound where sex workers and their clients were frequently seen. After getting out of the car, Peter struck Vera on the head 3 times.
God.
Then undressing her in his usual manner, he
No wonder they matched them all together. Like,
yeah, it's very similar.
Consistent, yeah.
A pattern, if you will.
A pattern, yes, Megan, a pattern, if you will.
He slashed her so viciously across her stomach that her intestines spilled out.
Oh.
He also stabbed her repeatedly in the one wound on her back just below her left ribs and punctured her right eyelid.
Oh, my God.
Her screams for help were heard and ignored by a man and his son entering the hospital at the time of her attack. People in the area...
What did they think it was?
Well, it was near a hospital. So maybe, apparently, people in the area were well accustomed to such cries in the night.
Oh, fuck.
Like, imagine, like, a labour ward.
Yeah.
Like the screaming. You just be like,
True,
oh, yeah, another...
You would hope a given birth scream was different to a fuck me, I'm about to be killed scream.
Well, you'd hope so. When he had finished with her, Peter dragged her body 12 feet away and dumped her by a chain link fence on a rubbish pile in the corner of the car park.
God.
So it's even like he started off covering with coats,
Yeah,
covering the
now-
blankets,
yeah.
and now it's like,
Getting
let me
all-
put you in a pile of rubbish.
Yeah.
Shortly after 8 a.m. the next morning, when 6 workers arrived in 2 vans to do gardening at the Manchester Royal Infirmary, Vera's body was found. Tyre tracks were found nearby. They matched those left at the murder sites of Irene Richardson and the site where Marilyn Moore had been attacked. During his interview with police, Peter said, "I didn't get any blood on me on that occasion. I think I was wearing my brown coat, which you've got. Following Millward, the compulsion inside me seemed to lay dormant, but eventually the feeling came welling up, and each time they were more random and indiscriminate.
Jeez.
I now realize I had the urge to kill any woman, and I thought this would eventually get me caught. But I think that in my subconscious, this is what I really wanted." Obviously starts off like, didn't get any blood on me.
Yeah.
I was wearing my brown coat. You guys have that now.
Yeah.
It had been 10 months since Vera was brutally murdered. A police psychologist had said that this might happen. The killer might just stop and never be heard from again. The police hoped that this
But
was
why?
the case.
You think if he enjoys the thrill of it.
Well, he already
what
took
made him
nearly a
stop?
year gap. But
Oh, he had a gap year.
he had a gap year.
Did he go travelling? Spent time with his family.
His wife, yeah. But usually you see like slow build up, and then they get sloppy, and
yeah,
then they get
and
caught.
then they get more and more regular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be like, a year apart,
But he's
6
done
months
the opposite.
apart.
He's gone on his little rampage and then had a bit of a break.
Slow down.
But something must trigger him to go back on his ramp again.
During that 10-month lapse, Peter's mother had died.
Oh.
It was on the 8th of November 1978 that Kathleen Sutcliffe, who had suffered from angina for 4 years. What's angina?
Isn't it
Angina?
what? No, it's angina. It's hang on, please hold.
Had died of a myocardial infarction and an...
Yeah, breathing.
Yeah.
Both angina and a heart attack. Yeah, they're very similar it's very similar to a heart attack, so it's got stuff to do with the heart.
Well, she did die of a myocardial infarction and a ischemic heart disease at the age of 59. Peter, who had always been closest to her, was grief-stricken, and he blamed his father for her death.
Oh.
Peter and Sonia had been living in their new home for over 12 months by this time and spent a great deal of time working on improvements.
Oh, so that's why he was too busy to go out killing.
Their neighbours considered them to be an unusual couple that kept very much to themselves. At work, Peter was one of Clark's most conscientious drivers who kept immaculate logs and repair records, but his workmates would see him as a bit of a loner who kept very much to himself and never showed any signs of violence, nor did he swear or speak crudely about sex or women.
Oh.
Imagine that, the weird little fucking nerdy guy turns out to be the Yorkshire Ripper.
But he doesn't talk bad about women or swear.
Yeah.
God almighty. I would have been culprit number one. I'm always bagging out women.
This bitch gives... when police interviewed him again, because his registration number had been noted in the red light areas, he was not noticeably concerned. He explained...
He's a pretty cool, calm little fella, isn't he?
He was, yeah. He explained that driving to and from work regularly took him through those areas. On Friday, March 2nd, 1979, on the grounds of Hornsforth College, just outside of Leeds, during mid-evening, 22-year-old student Anne Rooney was attacked from behind.
Oh, Jesus.
She'd been struck on the head 3 times, leaving distinctive semicircular wounds, which Professor David Gee, who examined her at Leeds General Infirmary, determined were most likely by a circular head of a hammer. She sustained no other injuries. Anne described her attacker as being in his 20s, 5 feet 10 inches in height, of broad build, with dark curly hair and a drooping mustache.
So it was him?
Yeah.
Okay.
As well, she believed that before the attack, she had seen the man sitting in a dark-coloured sunbeam rapier. Peter Sutcliffe was at the time the owner of a black sunbeam rapier.
Of course he was.
Which had been flagged by police numerous times going through red light areas of Leeds and Bradford. There were 850 sunbeam rapier and alpine vehicles listed in the Punters Index. 21 sunbeams were cross-area sightings, meaning they'd been flagged in 2 of 6 red light areas. Only 3, including Peter Sutcliffe's vehicle, had been flagged as having triple area sightings.
Oh, but then he had his way around it.
Yes. Unfortunately, the officers involved in the investigation into the attack on Anne Rooney were unaware of the information and the importance of the data that was available in the system.
Dickheads.
Anne Rooney's attack was not included in the Ripper series based on the extremely narrow criteria that it is believed that the hammer that caused her injuries was of a different size than the one that it was believed being used by the Yorkshire Ripper. As the Ripper investigation progressed, Tracy Brown became convinced that the man who attacked her was the same man. After seeing a Ripper photo fit, she went with her mother to the Kingley police station, but a young constable laughed at their suggestion that the man who attacked her was the Ripper. Her mother even called her uncle, a local magistrate, and a personal friend of Chief Superintendent Hobson, but no progress was made to link her attack with the Ripper series.
Wow.
The attack was finally and firmly linked with the Ripper in the review carried out by Mr. Colin Sampson, who later succeeded Mr. Gregory at the West Yorkshire Chief Constable. Peter Sutcliffe was not questioned about the attack on her until his conviction and refused to take responsibility for the attack and challenged the officers to prove it. Finally, in 1922, Peter did admit to being responsible for the attack on Tracy Brown and Anne Rooney to Chief Constable Keith Hallowell. After over a year of having no victims connected to the Yorkshire Ripper, on the night of April 4th, 19-year-old Josephine Whittaker had been visiting her grandparents, showing them the new silver watch she'd just bought for £60. Her grandmother had been out when she arrived, so she watched television with her grandfather to await her return at 11 p.m. from a church party across the road. Her grandparents enjoyed their granddaughter's weekly Sunday visits and had been pleasantly surprised by this extra midweek visit. When Josephine decided to go home, her grandparents tried to talk her into staying the night, but she preferred to go home as her case for storing her contact lenses was at home and she had work the next day. It was only a 10-minute walk, which she had taken many times before.
Oh.
It was almost midnight by the time she reached Savile Park, an area of open grassland surrounded by well-lit roads. On the night, Peter had been out drinking with Trevor. And shortly
Trev's back.
Trev's back.
What year are we up to now? We're
somewhere. I've been drinking with Trevor. Shortly after closing time, he dropped Trevor off at where he was living. Instead of going home, Peter went in the opposite direction and at around 11:30 p.m. had driven to Halifax and was cruising around the quiet residential district of Bell Hall and soon gravitated towards the playing fields of Savile Park. There were a few people walking their dogs, and after several circuits of the park, he spotted a young woman, Josephine Whitaker, walking alone. He quickly parked and began to follow her, and within minutes he'd caught up to her and began to talk to her as they walked. He asked if she had far to go, and she replied she had just been at her grandmother's and was walking home. As they approached the park, Josephine told Peter that she normally took a shortcut across the field. He expressed... Fucking hell.
God almighty, put your teeth in.
He expressed surprise, telling her, "You don't know who you could trust these days."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
you,
the person
Peter.
you're talking to.
As they started to walk across the field and were about 30 to 40 yards from the main road and out of range of the street lamps, he asked her the time. When she looked towards the town clock in the distance, Peter took a hammer from his jacket,
Jesus.
crushing it down on her head. As she lay on the grass, he hit her again and then dragged her 30 feet back into the darkness away from the road. He pulled her clothing back and stabbed her 25 times into her breast, stomach, thighs.
It's amazing how angry
It's
fucked
like
up he is. Like he doesn't even know these people.
Yeah.
Like
but
I
it's
said,
just like
if you had a history with them,
Mm.
and it's like, no, I'm gonna get you for this, this, and this, and that's why I'm so angry, and
you stew on it and you
and build it up to more than what it ever was. But this is just random shit.
and it's like he snaps full frenzy.
Yeah, and then
just
goes back
nothing.
to normal. I'm driving to work. Okay.
As he was crouched over the body, he was then horrified to hear voices close behind him. He turned and saw two figures hurrying across the field and watched as they passed close by him. The next morning at 6:30 a.m., a woman waiting at the bus stop saw what she thought was a bundle of rags in the park.
Oh, fuck.
She went across the road and was about to pick up the shoe when she realized that the bundle of rags was actually the body of a young woman.
Oh, my God. You said she was 16 or something, didn't you? 16, 17? Sorry, I'll withdraw my questions.
I'll go back. It's fine. 19.
Oh, 19. Sorry, I thought she was a bit younger.
She went up to the body. What?
Went to pick up the shoe,
She
found
went
out
up
it was
to
the
the
body.
body and saw that she was dead and ran back to her home to telephone the police. Josephine's 13-year-old brother David, after picking up the newspaper from his newspaper round, was returning across the playing field when he saw all the police activity, and it was when he saw the shoe he recognized it as one of his sisters. He ran home to tell his stepfather and mother. After checking her room and finding it empty, distraught with fear and grief, they called the police. An important clue was that boot prints had been found beside the body that were consistent to those found at the Emily Jackson and Tina Atkinson murders.
So he's worn the same shoes a lot.
Yeah. Despite forensic evidence, police efforts were diverted for several months following the receipt of a taped message purporting to be from the murderer, taunting Assistant Chief Constable George Oldfield of the West Yorkshire Police, who was leading the investigation. The tape contained a man's voice saying, "I'm Jack. I see you're having no luck catching me. I have the greatest..."
I'm Jack, as in Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. Obviously Jack the Ripper was a lot of years earlier.
Yeah.
And then there's...
One was in 1900s. Jack was in the 18, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. I am Jack. I'm seeing you're having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George, but Lord, you're no nearer catching me now than 4 years ago when I started.
Wow.
Based on the recorded message, police began searching for a man with a Geordie accent.
Oh, Geordie.
The hoaxer, dubbed Wareside Jack, sent 2 letters to the police and the Daily Mirror in March 1978, boasting of his crimes. The letters were signed as Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
The hoaxer case was reopened in 2005 and DNA taken from envelopes was entered into the national database. The DNA matched that of John Samuel Humble, an unemployed alcoholic and long-time resident of the Ford estate in Sunderland. On the 20th of October 2005, John Humble was charged with attempting to pervert the course of justice for sending the hoax letters and tapes. He was remanded in custody on the 21st of March 2006 and was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison. John died on the 30th of July 2019 at the age of 63. But John really
Well,
fucked things
You
up.
weren't so funny, were you, John?
No, not funny, haha, John. Funny, stupid.
Mm.
And you fuck things up for the investigation. 21-year-old Barbara Leach was about to start her third and final year in social psychology. Barbara was a student at Bradford University and lived with a group of students in a house in Grove Terrace, just across Great Horton Road from the university. She decided not to go home to Kettering, where her parents lived, so she could continue studying before the beginning of the school year. She'd rang her mother earlier that day to wish her father a happy birthday and apologise for not sending him a card. She told her mother that she would be heading home on Monday to spend a week with them. On the 1st of September, she'd been at the Manville Arms on Great Horton Street with her friends. The Manville Arms closing time was 11 p.m, and Barbara and her friends helped the landlord, Roy Evans, with collecting the empties and tidying up.
Oh, that's nice of it.
Yeah. When the group left the Manville Arms at around 12:45 a.m, even though there was a light rainfall, Barbara decided to get some night air and go for a walk.
On her own?
Yeah, well, after a few drinks,
Oh,
you know.
Barbara.
Also at the Manville Arms that night,
Oh, let's guess. Who was there drinking?
Peter Sutcliffe.
With Trev?
No.
Okay.
He had seen Barbara from across the other side of the room and had watched her continuously. At closing time, he left and waited in his car outside.
Would have been waiting for a while. She didn't leave for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah. As he watched Barbara walk down Great Horton Road alone, Peter started the car and drove down to Back Ash Grove, where he parked the car. With his hammer and knife in hand, he got out of the car and walked quickly along the alleyway, knowing that Barbara would soon be walking past at the other end. He waited for her in the shadows of Ash Grove, listening for the echo of her boots on the pavement as she walked towards him. As she passed, he sprung, smashing the hammer into her head.
Oh, every time you say it, it's like...
Yeah. He then dragged her into a backyard and tore at her clothing, exposing her breasts, abdomen, and underpants. He stabbed her 8 times, then dragged her body near some rubbish bins and covered her with an old carpet which laid nearby. Barbara had asked one of her roommates to stay up while she walked home as she didn't have a key. Her friend waited for over an hour, then assuming she had decided to join one of the many parties being held over the area, went to bed. When she hadn't come home the next morning, he rang her parents and the police, and a search began the same day, and her body was found that afternoon. Police investigations were stepped up and a £1 million publicity campaign was launched involving newspaper advertising and the posting of billboards, reminding the public of the killer with the Geordie accent.
That's right, Geordie.
Well, he had a Yorkshire accent, but the guy on the tape had a Geordie accent.
Yeah.
By now, there were few people who had ever suspected a bearded lorry driver with a Yorkshire accent living in Bradford, only a 5-minute drive away from police headquarters.
Oh, serious.
On Thursday, the 13th of September, West Yorkshire Police issued a confidential 18-page report to all other forces. It outlined the 16 known Ripper attacks and was intended to help police in the elimination of suspects. They're the sketches of him.
Well, pretty close, all of them, aren't they?
Yeah.
One,
except that one.
yeah.
I like this.
Or 1, 2, 3 not so much, 4 yes, 5 yeah, 6 yes, 7 no, 8 yes. So 5 out of those 8.
That's Peter Sutcliffe. That's the image.
That's
Sketch, Peter Sutcliffe. Sketch,
Oh.
Peter Sutcliffe. Sketch, Peter Sutcliffe.
Well, they're the
It's
4.
like-
They're the 4 I picked, and the first one's the most accurate
That one.
description of him. Then
Probably if he had more of a beard. I reckon that one too. That one, not
Nah,
really.
that
That
one's
one's like
not.
a bogan.
and that one doesn't.
No, that one looks like
Nah,
someone.
they're the 2 that were
Yeah.
least.
But yeah, they're the sketches. Along with detailed descriptions of all the evidence pertaining to the case, including the letters and the transcript of the tape, there were a 5-point list to be used for the purpose of elimination. For the purpose of elimination.
For elimination. For
It's
Bugart. Come on, Pooh. What you doing, Pooh?
okay. If it stated that any suspects could be eliminated if the man was not born between 1924 and 1959, Only those between 20 and 55 years of age needed to be considered.
Okay.
The man was obviously a coloured person. Everyone described him as white. So
okay. So, if you were coloured, you're off the hook.
Yeah. His shoe size was 9 or over.
Yeah, because he only had little girly feet.
Yep. His blood group was other than B.
Okay.
And his accent was dissimilar to a northeastern Geordie accent. So if you didn't have a Geordie accent, off you go. You got a Yorkshire accent, that's fine. The report then described the 3 most common elements in all of the known cases as being the use of 2 weapons, a sharp instrument and an alleged
hammer,
1 1/4 pound ball peen hammer, the absence of sexual interference, the clothing moved to expose breasts and pubic region. Another important change in police procedure involved the use of a new computer program through the police national computer. By entering the makes and registration numbers of vehicles sighted in the area of the attacks, the computer could chart precise flow patterns of individual vehicles. It was hoped that witness information of a particular car type in the area of the attack could be matched with the vehicle registration numbers recorded in that area and then cross-checked against other records.
Mm-hmm.
Through this process, they were able to eliminate 200,000 vehicles.
Wow.
Since January 1979, when Jack Ridgway and his men had left Broadford in their search for the owner of the £5 note found in Jean Jordan's handbag, they returned many times to interview employees of firms like Clark's, where Peter Sutcliffe worked.
Mm-hmm.
Peter had been interviewed on a number of occasions, and his workmates had taken to calling him the Ripper because of his apparent police interest in him.
Oh, well, yeah, there was different things between him driving through the area and...
I wouldn't be making jokes. I'd probably make jokes, but surely you'd be
But
like...
they were joking, not thinking he's legit, because they wouldn't have seen this.
You'd make jokes, but like, wouldn't something in the back of your ear go, oh, Peter's got the same car.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter had a £5 note. Oh, Peter.
Pumpkin eater.
Even as late as 1980, Peter was never considered to be a strong suspect, despite the fact that he had a gap in his front teeth. His car had been spotted in red light districts a number of times. His blood type was of B group, but not a secretor. He had the right boot size, and his name was on the now dramatically shortened list of 300 possible recipients of the £5 note.
Yeah, but he was a confident little shit. He always had a confident answer, logical answer as to why, where, how he was in areas. So he didn't panic and obviously break into a sweat when they were talking to him.
Yeah, if he was getting like but then he was like so skittish during his murders. Oh, there's a sound.
Exactly, but talking to cops, he's calm as a cucumber.
Wow. The overwhelming reason for why Peter Sutcliffe was not considered a suspect, even after a total of 9 interviews with police.
Oh, God. Over the 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that he provided alibis verified by Sonia and because he did not have a Geordie accent.
Fucking Sonia. Liar.
Sure, like, give him an alibi once, maybe twice. But...
no.
Maybe.
No.
If you like them.
No.
It's your husband.
No.
Maybe one alibi.
No.
Look, this isn't a debate.
You're talking... Well, it is at the moment. You're talking about some prick with your husband out and about because some woman just got murdered. Oh, yeah, no, he was with me. Fuck off.
I don't know.
Would you want him in your house?
No.
I'd be like, no, fucking take him.
Yeah. I'm not sure where I was going with that anyway.
No. I wouldn't be thinking, it's like when you see them on Crime Stoppers or on Facebook page where they go, if anyone knows him, I'd fucking dob him in and go, yeah, no, he lives in number 12. Off you go. Go and knock on his door. There he is.
In April 1979, Peter had admitted to his workmates that he was having an affair with a young woman in a village near Glasgow, taking them all completely by surprise. He was the last person they would have ever expected to fool around. He had always talked of his marriage to Sonia in happy terms and never talked about women in a sexual way at all.
I wonder what this is to achieve. Please continue.
Oh, wow. He had met Teresa Douglas at the Crown Bar in Hollytown, 12 miles from Glasgow, when he made a delivery to the nearby General Motors plant. He returned regularly to the village and quickly won the hearts of Teresa and her family.
Oh, God.
Known to them as Peter Logan from Yorkshire, they considered him to be one of the nicest men they've ever met.
Oh,
It's so fucked up how you can just flip.
he's got to have multiple personalities, doesn't he?
He told the family that he lived alone in a large house in Yorkshire and that he'd been married but was now divorced.
Oh, she
In-
just didn't know.
Yeah, she just wasn't aware that they were divorced.
Yeah.
In April 1980, he'd been out drinking and had decided, while on his way home, to make a detour through Manningham, a careless move considering the amount he'd had to drink. Police who noticed him driving in an erratic manner stopped him. He was breathalyzed and then arrested.
Oh,
Soon he would have to go to court and would probably lose his license. He was nervous for a far more important reason than this.
yeah. They've now got his fingerprints and everything else.
Well, yeah. He was worried that the arresting police were to find out that he'd been interviewed many times in the Yorkshire Ripper investigation. It wouldn't happen this time. There was no cross-checks done and he was free to go home.
Oh, my God.
If the prospect of losing his license bothered him, he didn't show it. He told his workmates that he and Sonia planned to move to the country and open a pottery business.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Sonia, although concerned about the drop in income, looked forward to having her husband home with her at nights. It had been a lonely life, with Peter working late and spending regular nights at pubs with his friends. As Peter waited for his impending court appearance, due in January 1981, he attacked 47-year-old Marguerite Walls. Marguerite was a civil servant who worked at the Department of Education and Science office in Pudsey. She had worked late on Wednesday, August 20th, 1980, working extra hours as she was going on a 10-day holiday the following day. She left her office between 9:30 and 10:30 to walk the half-mile back to her home, taking the longest but safest route along well-lit streets.
Oh, she's not stupid then. She tried to do the right thing.
In New Street, as she walked past the entrance to a local magistrate's house, Peter jumped out from behind the fence where he had waited for her and hit her on the head with his hammer. He shouted, "Filthy prostitute," as he struck further blows to her head.
But she wasn't.
No. Marguerite did not fall to the ground as Peter expected her to. Instead, she began to scream, and a second blow to the head still did not stop her screaming as she held her now bleeding head. To stop her screaming, he grabbed her by the neck and strangled her.
Oh.
He then looped a length of rope around her neck, tightening it as he half carried, half dragged her about 20 yards from the point of attack up the driveway and into a high-walled garden. So just like someone's front yard.
It sounds like it.
By the time he reached the garage, deep in the garden, Marguerite was dead. He ripped at her clothes, tearing them from her and scattering them around the garden. His anger and frustration grew at his failure to bring his knife. Before leaving her, he covered her body with leaves that had been left in a pile nearby. As he left the garden, he checked that the street was quiet before stepping out from the darkness. 15 minutes later, he was safely home.
Bloody hell.
Marguerite's body was found the next day by 2 gardeners. But that sounded like he was just dragged onto someone's property.
Yeah, well.
Imagine that. You just wake up and now your fucking house is a crime scene.
Yeah.
Your garden. Detective Chief Superintendent James Hobson, after consultation with forensic experts, announced, "We do not believe this is the work of the Yorkshire Ripper."
Oh, God.
While there are no obvious Ripper-like elements to the attack, the use of a ligature and the lack of stab wounds appeared to suggest a new, different killer.
Oh, for God's sake.
Which is fair enough. He's been doing the same thing over and over again, and now this one's strangled and not stabbed. Oh, hello. On Wednesday, the 24th of September, 1980, 34-year-old Dr. Upadhyaya Bandara was walking home after visiting friends in Hendingley, Leeds. As she walked past the Kentucky Fried Chicken shop, she noticed a man inside. He was staring at her. She continued on her way and eventually turned into a dimly lit cobbled street called Chapel Lane, which was an alleyway shortcut through to Cardigan Road. At around 10:30 p.m. while walking in the alleyway, she moved off to one side to let someone overtake her. Then she was hit twice over the head and knocked unconscious, and a length of rope was looped around her neck. So I don't know why he's obviously the media attention, or probably the scare of being arrested, and he's like, got to change it up. Upadhyaya lay bleeding on the ground as Peter picked up her shoes and handbag and took them several yards away. Before he could resume his attack, he heard footsteps and fled. The footsteps belonged to Mrs. Valerie Nicholas, whose house backed onto the laneway. She heard noises at 10:30 and had gone out to investigate.
Thank God she did.
Yeah. Dr. Bendara regained consciousness to find a police officer who'd been patrolling in the area standing over her. He'd arrived moments after Peter left. Before she'd lost consciousness, she said she had seen her attacker and described him as about 25, 5'4", with black hair and a full beard and mustache. Due to the lack of any stab wounds and the use of a ligature, the attack was not considered to be a Ripper attack. The attack, however, was linked to the murder of Marguerite, and the police believed they had a new killer to contend with.
Oh, God.
Could you fucking imagine? They've already got one serial killer, and now this is happening. They're like, great, we've got two now.
Yeah.
Dr. Bendara returned to Singapore to recover. On the 25th of October 1980, 21-year-old art student Maureen Lee was in a pub with friends in the Chapeltown neighbourhood where they'd been discussing plans for her 21st birthday.
Oh.
Just after 10 p.m, Maureen and her friends parted way. At this time, there was a curfew on women so that they were not walking home alone.
Good.
Her boyfriend was...
Good idea.
Yeah, but why do women need the curfew?
Well, for their own fucking safety until they catch this dipshit.
Her boyfriend was in London, so she was on her own for the first time. She decided to walk through the university campus to catch the bus. She went down a street which was normally well lit, but this night there was a light out. While she was walking, someone started walking behind her. She thought that it was most likely someone from the pub or from the university. She said that although he was very chatty and friendly, she realised she did not recognise him and that he was holding himself really strangely and standing in an odd position. She decided to cut the conversation with the man short and politely said, "Bye, see you," and continued on her way. As she walked away, she heard the man's footsteps increasing behind her. She picked up her pace and eventually started running.
Good on her.
She heard the footsteps behind her increasing too, getting faster and faster. She said, "The next thing I knew, I got this massive whack to the top of my head.
God.
And I saw the pavement coming up towards me and I blacked out."
Shit.
Maureen was suffering from significant wounds when she awoke in the hospital, including a puncture hole to the back of her skull, a fractured skull, a fractured cheekbone, a broken jaw. And
how did she? Who saw her? Or someone obviously interrupted.
I'm not. Well, she was walking through the university, so possibly just
someone's interrupted him finishing off the job.
Her neck had narrowly missed a major injury where 2 screwdrivers had been stabbed into the back of her skull.
Fucking hell.
And just missed her spinal cord by millimeters.
Oh my God.
While in the hospital, her parents had actually walked past her bed because they didn't recognize her.
Fuck.
Also while in hospital, the woman in the bed opposite her asked, "What did you do to deserve that?"
Oh.
I would have backhanded that.
So would have I. I would have got up and gone, "Here.
I'd be like, bip, bip, nurse, slap her.
This is what you deserve this for." Bang.
During her recovery, police officers arrived to take photographs of her injuries and take a report. One of the officers said, "Well, if we're going to take this seriously, we'll come and interview you again." She replied,
if we're going to take this seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
She replied to the officers, "Take this seriously. I could be dead if people hadn't interrupted this attack."
There you go.
And as it was, it transpired that the police were being heavily criticised by Margaret Thatcher at the time because they could not find the Yorkshire Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
On Wednesday, the 5th of November 1980, 16-year-old Teresa Skies had just bought cigarettes from a grocery shop and was walking a path along a grassland and was almost home. At the time, Teresa was living with her boyfriend and their 3-month-old son. Peter had followed her from the pub where she had dropped in to see her father, the owner, but not just dropping in to see dad at the pub, before he struck her.
That would have been you at 16. Just going down the pub to say hello to
just
dad.
to see dad. Now he's in the bookshop. I can see him whenever I want.
Yeah.
Flip.
Is he?
Not this one. God almighty. We've already fucking talked about this.
All right, come on.
Before he struck her from behind with one of the blows so severe that it went through her skull. Teresa screamed as Peter struck her. Her boyfriend Jimmy watched in horror from their lounge room window.
He saw it.
He saw it. She was right outside the house. Within seconds, he was running towards Teresa and Peter. When Peter saw Jimmy, he ran back into the darkness of the night. Peter ran and hid under a hedge in a nearby front yard, crouching there until Jimmy had given up and he felt it was safe to emerge and leave the area. What a fucking little bitch. Peter said to police, "I attacked her because she was the first person I saw that night. At first, it didn't take me any time to decide which women were prostitutes. I think something clicked because she had on a straight skirt with a slit in it."
Right.
Got a slit in your skirt, you must be a sex worker.
Yeah, a 16-year-old.
She's just buying a pack of smoke, saying hi to her dad,
Yeah.
heading home. Teresa miraculously survived the brutal attack, but she was never the same again.
Yeah, bet.
After spending several weeks in the neurosurgical unit at Pindersfields Hospital in Wakefield, Teresa returned home, but in early 1981, she left Jimmy and returned to live with her parents. Teresa was now afraid of men, and despite their plans to marry, she was even afraid of Jimmy.
Oh.
Her father, who...
Jimmy saved her fucking life.
Yeah, you'd like, I don't know. You'd feel so shit, but then at the same time you'd get
exactly. Yeah, you get both sides of it, but geez.
Her father, who always believed that the Yorkshire Ripper had been responsible for his daughter's attack, said that since the attack, her whole personality had changed. Where she was once this happy girl, she was now quick to flare up in anger over the smallest things. Also, she got attacked in the head. She could have, something could have...
Yeah, of course.
On Monday the 17th of November 1980, 20-year-old Jacqueline Hill was in the third year of her English degree course. She was returning home from her student's hall of residence in Headingley, Leeds, after she'd been at a probation officer's seminar in Leeds City and had caught the bus home. Peter, who was eating at a KFC, likes his KFC.
That's twice KFC's been in the mix.
Did someone say KFC?
Somebody say menu log.
He was sitting at KFC, saw Jacqueline get off the bus and began to follow her. He quickly drove up Alma Road, overtaking her, stopped his car and waited for her to walk past. After she did, he got out of the car and began to follow her. Her mother had been concerned about her living alone on the outskirts of town because of the Yorkshire Ripper, so Jacqueline had decided to move into an all-girls flat in Lupton Court, which was part of a complex of university residents behind the Arndale shopping centre. Jacqueline was only 100 yards from her home when Peter struck her on the back of the head. He dragged Jacqueline's body 14 yards onto some vacant land just behind the Arndale shops car park. Protected from view by trees and bushes, Peter stabbed her repeatedly. He stabbed her in the eye and tore at her clothes and slashed her naked body. When he was finished, he left her and headed home. He forgot that Jacqueline's handbag and glasses still lay on the pavement in Alma Road where she'd dropped them. Only a short time after the attack, Amir Hussain, an Iranian student, found the bag as he walked home to Lupton Court. He took it home with him to show his 5 flatmates, one of them who was an ex-chief inspector with the Hong Kong police. He became alarmed when he saw that nothing had been stolen from the bag and noticed fresh blood spots on the outside of it, and the police were called. The officers...
One of them was fucking smart.
Why would you take it, though?
Oh, exactly, dickheads.
The officers did a cursory search with their torches for about 3 minutes, but failed to find Jacqueline's...
3 minutes off. I fucking put a lot of time into it.
They put a lot of effort into finding.
Yeah, clearly.
They failed to find Jacqueline's spectacles, her woolen mittens, or her body. It was not until the following morning that her body...
Some poor bastard probably found her while jogging or walking or going to school.
That her body was discovered by Donald Court, a manager of a shop at the Arndale shopping centre, who, while walking along a ramp leading to the car park, glanced over the wall and saw her body. On the 25th of November 1980, Trevor Birdsall reported Peter to the police as a suspect.
What the fuck made Trevor work this out? 4 years down the road and about 12 fucking women.
Look, I don't know. Trevor, come on, mate. Could have done it earlier.
Yeah, what made Trevor twig?
I don't know. We'll find out maybe.
I fucking want to.
In total,
I've been committed to this for 2 weeks running. No answers.
In total, Peter had been questioned by police on 9 separate occasions in connection to the Ripper inquiry. On Friday, the 2nd of January 1981, Peter left his home just after 4 p.m. He told his wife, Sonia, that he was going to collect the key of his sister's car, which had broken down. However, he didn't drive to Bingley, but instead drove to a scrapyard near Murfield, just outside of Leeds. There, he picked up 2 number plates from a Skoda, one which had fallen off the vehicle and the other he pulled off. At 9 p.m, he called Sonia from a service station and told him that he was having car troubles.
Oh, of course.
On the same night, 24-year-old Olivia Rivas had left her 2 children at home at 6 o'clock to meet up with her girlfriend, 19-year-old Denise Hall, to earn some money in Sheffield's red light district.
Oh, no.
It was 9 p.m, only moments after the 2 young women had started patrolling along Warncliffe Road when Denise met her first potential client. He was driving a brown Rover 3500 and had pulled up to the curb, but there had been something about his eyes that disturbed her. Despite his good looks and neatly trimmed beard and dark wavy hair, he frightened her, so she declined his offer of £10.
Ooh, double down.
Well, yeah, double the normal rate. An hour later, the same Rover pulled up to the curb again. When Olivia looked into Peter's eyes, she did not see what her friend Denise saw.
Oh, fucking hell.
Taking him up on his offer of £10, Olivia climbed into the car. They drove a short distance to Melbourne Avenue and parked in the driveway of the British Iron and Steel Producers Association headquarters. Olivia had often brought her customers up here where it was quiet and isolated and perfect for business. Peter had been unable to become aroused because he's a little bitch. Fuck you, Peter. Despite Olivia's many attempts, so they had sat and talked for a while, mostly about Peter.
Oh, and what he got up to in the last few years?
So what are your hobbies?
Yeah, hammers,
murder.
knives.
In his pocket were his ball peen hammer, a piece of rope and a knife. While they talked, the car interior was suddenly illuminated by headlights as the car turned into the drive and parked nose to nose with Peter's car.
Ha!
While he waited, Sergeant Robert Ring and Constable Robert Hydes were driving along Melbourne Road as part of their general patrol. When they saw a dark Rover parked in the driveway, they had a pretty good idea why. So there was a cop car that pulled up nose to nose with Peter's car.
Mm-hmm.
The police questioned the couple. Peter said that his name was Peter Williams and Olivia was his girlfriend. Luckily for Olivia, one of the police officers remembered her face, certain that she was a convicted sex worker with a suspended sentence. He told her to get into his police car.
Ooh, saved her life.
Yeah. While one officer was speaking to the couple, the other was at the back of the car looking at the number plates. He returned to his police car and radioed via police headquarters to check on the number plates. They discovered that the number plates actually belonged to a Skoda, not a Rover, and the 2 officers returned to Peter's car. Without waiting for permission, Peter walked off, explaining that he was busting for a pee.
Of course he was.
Which the police were prepared to take his word for and headed out of view of the officers.
Kept running.
Near the entrance of the building, there was an oil storage tank. It was behind this tank, well out of view of the policemen, that Peter placed his hammer and knife. He hoped that they hadn't heard the sound they made when he placed them on the ground near the wall. Leaving Peter's Rover at the scene, the officers took both Peter and Olivia to the Hamilton Road police station. At the station, Peter asked to use the toilet. I'm like, oh, this guy needs to fucking piss.
Yeah, I reckon. Piss and Peter.
There was a knife in his jacket, which was accessible through a hole in his pocket. He dropped the knife into the top of the water cistern, so it wouldn't be found in his possession. Still in the pocket of his jacket was the length of rope, the same one that he had used in the strangulation of Marguerite Walls and the attempted strangulation of Upada Bandara. In the interview room, Peter chatted with officers about his work as a lorry driver and his love of cars.
Oh.
They noted that he had dark frizzy hair, a beard, and a gap between his teeth. The officers were familiar with the 5 points of reference for elimination of the suspects in the Yorkshire Ripper case, but were not fazed by the lack of Geordie accent. Peter lived in Bradford, the heart of the Ripper country, and had told them that he had driven to Sunderland many times in his work as a lorry driver.
Mm-hmm.
The list of possible cars did not include a brown Rover that Peter was driving at the time of his arrest, but Peter had told them about his white Corsair with the black roof because he loves cars. They're just talking to him. What cars do you love? What cars did you have? The next day, Sergeant Robert Ring decided on a hunch to return to the scene of the arrest, and he discovered the knife and the hammer that Peter had discarded behind the oil storage tank when he briefly slipped away after telling them that he was bursting for a pee.
Mm-hmm.
The police obtained a search warrant for his home in Heaton and brought his wife in for questioning. They also took a number of tools, which included ball-peen hammers. When Peter was stripped at Dewsbury Police Station, he was wearing an inverted V-neck jumper under his trousers.
What?
The sleeves had been pulled up over his legs and the V-neck exposed his genital area. The front of the elbows were padded to protect his knees.
What the fuck?
I don't get, like, he didn't sexually assault them.
He did some of them.
Some of them, but like, I don't know why he's still wearing pants.
Yeah, so what's the jumper got to...
I don't know. That was just what he was wearing. After 2 days of intensive questioning on the afternoon of Sunday, 4th of January 1981, Peter suddenly admitted that he was the Yorkshire Ripper.
What, just got sick of denying it?
Or they probably were like, dude, we've got so much shit on you.
And Trev stitched up.
Trevor's thrown you under the bus. He gave a chilling and accurate description of the attacks and murders delivered in a calm and unemotional fashion.
Oh, you can actually imagine that.
Yeah. He gave them information that only the killer would know and had been kept secret from all but most senior officers, including how he tried to cut the head off of Jean Jordan with a hacksaw.
Oh, yeah.
And how he had stuffed horsehair down Yvonne Pearson's throat to keep her quiet.
Okay, so...
Like, no, only the killer would
that's
know.
right. Only the police knew that.
He also began to reveal where some of the weapons were that he had discarded, including the hammer used to kill Patricia Atkins.
The poor bloke's been
that
using
the
for
guy's been
3
using.
years. Oh.
And the sharpened screwdriver he had used on Josephine Whitaker and Barbara Leach. The police later recovered these weapons. Several weeks later, he claimed God had told him to murder the women.
Oh.
He told police, "The women I killed were filth, bastard prostitutes who were littering the streets. I was just cleaning up the place a bit."
Oh, right.
Good on you, Peter.
Except half of them weren't prostitutes.
Most
a
of
lot
yeah.
were, but
But
was
still,
a
it doesn't
handful
fucking matter.
No,
Like,
I know,
that's-
but a handful of them
Yeah.
weren't. It was just you're a fuckwit.
Well, one of the last ones is, she had a slit in her skirt. Must have been a sex worker.
Yeah, exactly.
On the 5th of January 1981, Peter was charged.
Finally.
At his trial that May, he pleaded not guilty to 13 charges of murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility.
Oh, fuck off.
After
We've had this discussion before.
After a 2-hour representation by the Attorney General Sir Michael Havers, a 90-minute lunch break, and another 40 minutes of legal discussion, the judge rejected the diminished responsibility plea. His trial lasted 2 weeks, and despite the efforts of his counsel, Peter was found guilty of murders on all counts.
How could you defend
Yeah.
in any way, shape, form, or direction? Not possible. There's no way you could sit there and go, all right, well, we could say this.
We could say, well, I think the diminished responsibility was their only
Well,
card.
that was their
and
only.
the judge was like,
fuck off.
I don't think so.
You've been doing this for 4 or 5 years and you've been functioning and we've spoken to you 9 times.
Yeah.
And you've covered your ass in every
like, how do you
circumstance.
get out of that?
Yeah. Go, oh, yeah, no, I don't remember saying that.
Peter was found guilty of murder on all counts and was sentenced to 20 concurrent sentences of life imprisonment. The jury rejected the evidence of 4 psychiatrists who gave testimony that Peter had paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh, fuck off.
Possibly influenced by the evidence of a prison officer who heard him say to his wife that if he convinced people he was mad, he might just get 10 years in the loony bin. Like, you're in fucking prison. They monitor those phone calls. Are you stupid?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, thankfully. Justice Borham stated that Peter was beyond redemption and hoped he would never leave prison.
He wouldn't have.
Well, no.
20 consecutive years. Bit hard.
He recommended a minimum term of 30 years to be served before parole could be considered, meaning he would be unlikely to be freed until at least 2011. On the 16th of July 2010, the High Court issued Peter with a whole life tariff, meaning he was never to be released.
Good.
West Yorkshire Police were criticised for being inadequately prepared for an investigation on this scale. It was one of the largest investigations by a British police force and predated the use of computers, which you don't know what you're prepared for until it comes up. They weren't prepared for a fucking serial killer to go around.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't have computers. Imagine trying to do all that with paper and pens. Information on suspects was stored on handwritten index cards. Aside from difficulties in storing and accessing the paperwork, it was difficult for officers to overcome the information overload of such a large manual system. Peter was interviewed 9 times, but all information the police had about the case was stored in paper form, making cross-referencing difficult.
Yeah, can imagine.
Yeah, compounded by the television appeals for information, which generated 1,000 more documents.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have been just like, oh, hang on, this name keeps coming up.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, it's not just a computerized system where you can control F and fucking figure out where his name is. In 1982, the inspector of Constabulary Lawrence Byford reported an official inquiry into the Ripper case. The Byford report's major findings were contained in a summary published by the Home Secretary, William Whitelaw, disclosing for the first time precise details of the bludgeoned police investigation. Byford described delays in following up vital tip-offs from Trevor, who, on the 25th of November 1980, sent an anonymous letter to police, the text of which ran as follows. I have good reason to now know, he'd forgot the K in no. I have good reason to know the man you're looking for in the Ripper case. This man has dealings with prostitutes and always had a thing about them. His name and address is Peter Sutcliffe, 5 Garden Lane, Heaton, Bradford, Clark's Trans, Shipley.
So he's told them when did he tell them that, sorry?
The 25th of November 1980.
Oh, so only 2 months before he was caught.
Yeah. Travis's letter was marked priority number 1. An index card was created on the basis of the letter, and a policewoman found Peter already had 3 existing index cards in the records. But for some inexplicable reason, said the Bradford report, the papers remained in a filing tray in the incident room until Peter's arrest several weeks later.
Oh, Jesus.
Travis visited Bradford Police Station the day after sending the letter to repeat his suspicions about Peter Sutcliffe. He stated that when he was with Peter, he got out of the car to pursue a woman with whom he had an argument at the bar in Halifax on the 15th of August 1975, the date and place of Olivia Smelt's attack. A report compiled on the visit was lost.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Despite a comprehensive search that took place after Peter's arrest.
Like, mind you, it took Trev 5 years to work the fucking puzzle out. Oh, Trev.
Following his conviction and incarceration, Peter chose to use the name Coonan, his mother's maiden name. He began his sentence at HM Prison Parkhurst on the 22nd of May 1981. While there, he was seriously assaulted by James Costello.
On you, James.
There's James.
Good on you, James. Any reason? Just because he didn't like him or because he knew who he was?
So 35-year-old James Costello had made 28 court appearances between 1963 and 1980, 9 of them in relation to violence and 15 appearances resulting in prison sentences.
So he had nothing to lose.
Yeah, wow.
He was there for the whole.
He was convicted in 1980 for possessing a firearm with the intent to endanger life, possessing a firearm with the intent to resist arrest, and possessing a firearm without a certificate. On the 10th January 1983, while Peter was getting water in a plastic bowl, James followed him into a recess. He smashed him twice on the left side of the face with a broken coffee jar before Peter managed to push him away. Peter had 4 wounds requiring 30 stitches. One deep cut ran 5 inches from near his mouth to his neck, and another was 2.5 inches long, running from his left eye to his ear.
Okay. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, fuck you, Peter.
Shit happens, Pete.
Peter was sent to the Broadmoor Hospital under Section 47 of the Mental Health Act of 1983. Sonia obtained a separation around 1989.
Oh, on you, Sonia. She should have been fucking charged with
perverting the course of justice.
Yeah, and lying about his alibi.
And a divorce in July 1994. On the 23rd of February 1996, Paul Wilson, who was a convicted robber who had been diagnosed as mentally ill, was a patient at Broadmoor. He went to Peter's private room in the Henley ward. He asked to borrow a videotape before attempting to strangle Peter with a cable from the pair of headphones.
Oh, well.
When Peter screamed for help, two other murderers, Kenneth Erskine and the Stockwell Strangler, and Jamie Devitt, raised the alarm and ran to help him.
Oh, for God's sake. Why?
I'll be like, I see fucking nothing.
Yeah. Should have just gone, no, I didn't hear a thing.
Paul was then taken by nurses to an isolation unit and was said to have had a deep... Paul, the guy who strangled him, was taken to an isolation unit and said he had a deep hatred of sex offenders and told the staff that he resented being locked up with them. I'm not sure why he was in prison. I'm hoping not being a sex offender.
Well, I'm guessing not if he hates them.
Well, on the 10th of March 1997, Peter was attacked for a third time.
Who's that?
29-year-old Ian Kay had been jailed for 8 years in December 1991 for nearly killing a shop assistant and for 16 robberies.
Oh.
The attack on Peter came just a week after Health Secretary Stephen Dorrell had announced a wide-ranging review concentrating on security and the quality of care of management in Broadmoor. The Prison Officers Association had criticised security and staffing levels at Broadmoor, including a lack of experienced nurses and patients intimidating the staff. They had warned that the possible was reaching a breaking point. Peter had been sitting in his room when Ian burst in. An argument started, and before staff could reach him, Ian had attacked Peter. There was a scuffle, and Peter was stabbed in both eyes by what they believed to be a fibre-tipped pen.
Jesus Christ.
The points of these types of pens are very sharp and can do a lot of damage. Ian had apparently been showing signs of violence in the past few weeks. They also had other patients in Broadmoor who had been stabbed with a felt-like pen, and they were available in the work areas that were used for drawing.
Oh, fair enough.
It also said that after Ian had been moved into a private room 2 doors down from Peter, he'd gone berserk. It was believed that he objected to be so close to one of Britain's most notorious murderers. After the attack, Peter lost vision in his left eye, and his right eye was severely damaged.
Jeepers.
During lunch on Saturday the 22nd of December 2007, at the dining hall in Dorchester Ward at Broadmoor Hospital, murderer Patrick Serrata, imprisoned for the 2000 strangulation of his mother and pronounced a paranoid schizophrenic by doctors, attacked Peter with a metal cutlery knife while shouting. It's not funny, but it is. You fucking raping, murdering bastard. I'll blind your fucking other one.
Okay, man on a mission.
I'll get your other eye. Oh, Peter flung himself backwards and the blade missed his right eye, stabbing him in the cheek. An application by Peter for a minimum term to be set, offering the possibility of parole after that date, if it were thought safe to release him, was heard by the High Court on the 16th of July 2010.
If it was thought safe to release him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The court decided that Peter would never be released.
Of course not.
Stating, this was a campaign of murder which terrorised the population of a large part of Yorkshire for several years. The only explanation for it on the jury's verdict was anger, hatred and obsession. Apart from a terrorist outrage, it is difficult to conceive of circumstances in which one man could account for so many victims. In December 2015, Peter was assessed to be no longer mentally ill.
He was never assessed as fucking mentally ill.
He was no longer mentally ill. In August 2016, a medical tribunal ruled that he no longer required clinical treatment for his mental condition and could be returned to prison. Peter was reported to have been transferred from Bradmore to HM Prison Frankland in August 2016. In early November, Peter reported, boasting, that he would never catch COVID-19 in jail. Not long after, he was experienced continuous vomiting and diarrhea and tested positive for COVID.
Oh.
While being taken to the University Hospital of North Durham, he apparently said, I'm not going to make it. I won't be returning. I'm sorry. I'm ready to go. On the 13th of November 2020...
And what they say, catch a cunt?
Yeah, peace, bitch. They're like, okay, what a shame.
Yep, all right.
On the 13th of November 2020, at 74 years old, Peter Sutcliffe died from diabetes-related complications following treatment for a suspected heart attack at the same hospital 2 weeks prior. He had a number of underlying health problems, including obesity and diabetes. A private funeral was held and Peter Sutcliffe's body was cremated.
Oh.
And that is the Yorkshire Ripper Part 2.
Wow.
Wowzers.
What about Trev's? Trev's still alive? Do we have
no
any more
idea.
information on Trev?
Trevor, bros before hoes, but this is taking it to the extreme,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Took you a while to work that one out, Trev.
Yes, I don't think there's any other image. Yeah, that was, I think, the last known photo of Peter Sutcliffe from 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that is the two-parter. Thank you for listening to two parts
Yeah.
of Peter Sutcliffe.
That was
A lot.
horrible.
Yeah, it
It
was
was horrible in a lot of places. In a lot of places.
in a lot of places, but
And
mostly
frustrating at how the wife hindered it, Trev hindered it. Fucking hell.
he was
Police
interviewed 9 times.
Police themselves didn't put any of the puzzles together earlier than what they could have. You can understand why Thatcher was getting shitty with it.
I do love how the murderer in prison is like, I'm going to stab your other eye.
You thought that was funny, did
That
you?
was fucking hilarious.
Okay.
I wish he did. Then he'd be fully blind.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Eye for an eye, as they say. Follow us on Instagram at mainly_murder. You can email us at...
Don't look at me. Don't point your fucking finger at
You
me.
knew it last time.
Oh, I don't remember.
Mainly
MainlyMurder something.
Murger.
Indeed, spell. MainlyMurder.
There's no G.
I'm tired, all right? I've been
Mainly-
awake since 5:30 this morning.
Wow.
Just don't need this.
MainlyMurderPodcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Join us on Patreon. Buy us a coffee. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Say g'day.
And we will
See you next Tuesday.
see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.